Well, I'm off cycling to the woods today, and one of the things I rather like is going down this right of way. It's at the end of my garden and it takes one out onto the road. But it's rather nice because it's so quiet and peaceful along here. It's been here since Victorian times, so it's nice to think of all the people who used to live in the houses using it. Used to be a saddler living in my own house, which seems quite fitting as I do leather work. Anyway, it takes you out down to this sort of like magical gateway, and then on beyond through other gateways and eventually to the road. So I've got my trusty bicycle with me today, and I'm going off, as I say, to some woodlands, so have a little bit of an explore. Just to sort of add to the feeling of history with this right of way, a pile of junk here at the end, but quite a lot of these, they're World War I periscopes. And it's sort of just timeless to think these were possibly used in the First World War, down the trenches, and I wonder what the people see with them. There are quite a few here. And I know in a way one should say, well, they probably shouldn't be left rusting, but in a way it sort of seems fitting, like a bit of a tribute perhaps to those lives which have now gone. Well, I'm only a short way away and there's this lovely old Victorian warehouse, and it's currently disused, which is a great shame. But it's one of those things, if buildings could speak, because believe it or not, Sigfrid Sassoon read poetry here, and also inside there's a grade, I think it's grade 1 or grade 2 listed staircase, and it was actually for painting carriages. What they used to do is make the carriages downstairs and then take them upstairs to the paint shop up this lovely wide staircase. And that's where the painting was done, upstairs, in I guess a more dust-free environment. But it's a very nice scene. It's a wintry day, so everything looks a bit bleak at the moment. Anyway, I'm only about half a minute away from home. I'm now going up the high street. So here's the main high street, or one of the high streets in Sevenoaks. It's actually got two. And across the road there is the post office. And that's where I've posted about 1,000 or more than 1,000 Bucklehurst belts. There's so much to see in this park, and I mean, this is just one example. This tree. The whole park got affected by a very severe storm in 1987, known as the Great Storm, and lots of trees fell down. This is in the southeast of England, say it's Sevenoaks, and across the whole of the southeast there was terrible damage. But they've left a lot of the trees where they're reasonably safe to leave them standing, and here's one which clearly it's had quite a lot of woodpeckers popping in. And then literally a few paces away, look at this lovely little detailing on the side of this little trackway. So this is like a foot trackway up to Knole House, which is a stately home. And you've got these lovely little cobbles set in here. Someone's been very good at keeping them clean and clear. What they were actually for, this was at one time the main entrance for Knole House, and the carriage wheels could obviously run in these little gullies quite happily. Is now just a footpath, and there's a separate road entrance, but it's rather nice. I'll keep on up here, there's a couple more things to show you. This is actually a deer park, and one of my friends, he's made about 10, it's John the Shingler actually, he's made about 10 of these reindeer, and they're rather lovely. They're made out of chestnut, and it's a little trail. The children love this. So we've got the tiger who came to tea, and people can follow a little trail. This is number 5, and they go from deer to deer, and it gives such pleasure to all the young visitors. And here's another deer. This is number 7. Now, just over about 30 yards away, you may be able to see that dome, the brick dome. I'll take you closer, it's quite interesting. I'll give you a clue, it's hundreds of years old, and the big stately home is straight ahead up there. It's actually an ice house, so it's rather covered in earth. This would have been the entrance just here, and inside it's actually a huge cavernous, like a bit like an oast house inside in some ways, but a large enough house to be able to put a lot of ice in. So they'd cut the frozen ice in the winter, they'd store it in here, and then it would basically act like a refrigerator. So all the posh people in the house over there could show their wealth by displaying food with ice and drinks with ice, or whatever they used to do. There's another little view of Knole House. So I think I've mentioned in a previous film, it's a calendar house. So things like 12 staircases, 300 and odd windows, 365 windows, 4 courtyards. We're going to go straight ahead. It is incredibly muddy. And my bike is slipping all over the place. Some bits, you choose your path, it's just about manageable. Other areas, it skids. I haven't got any specialist mud tires or anything fancy. So it's a bit of a test. But it's, in a way, it adds to some of the fun of the cycling. I'm on a nice bit of sandy path now, and you get lovely glimpses of the house every now and again. So if I just stop here and swing round, there you are, another view of this rather grand old country house. Vita Sackville West lived here. So yeah, it's got quite a lot of history to it. You have to choose your cycle routes quite carefully because there are all these ant hills everywhere. I forget the name of the ants, a special kind of ants. They actually burrow very deep down, and it's a bit like an iceberg. It's a little hill you're seeing on top, which looks a bit like a molehill, but there's actually lots of ants down below, and they manage to still regulate the temperature that way. But it makes cycling incredibly rough if you go over those. You don't want to, basically. I'll just take you up to, there's a nice cluster of trees up there, incredibly bumpy on the approach. What I like about them is they're actually set in a circle. If I come over to one side and just pan around, you probably begin to get the idea of a nice circle. And suddenly you've got all these lovely trees reaching for the sky and waving in the wind. There's something very well, it is organic, but very nice about seeing the tree bark up close and feeling it. And then look at this, you can pretend you're climbing a tree up high there. I'm going to now attempt to cross into that woodland. I think it may be just too muddy in places, but I'll see how it goes. There are a couple of very nice little sort of routeways in there. Here's an example of one of the trees that came down in the Great Hurricane of 1987. I can actually remember it well because I was just moving to Sevenoaks and all the roads were blocked and one couldn't get anywhere at all. I was buying a house and I can remember going along to inspect it to make sure it wasn't too damaged, and fortunately just one door had been blown off, but that was all. But yeah, it caused absolute mayhem. The National Trust has a sort of policy now of leaving trees on the ground because you obviously get biodiversity with insects and, as you saw earlier, the woodpeckers and lots of other little creatures, making it their natural habitat. It's sort of odd seeing this in the depths of winter because normally I'd come through here a lot in the summer and it's green and lush. I mean, I'm only a few minutes from where I live and it's lovely being able to come out for a little cycle in the evening in the summer and do a little circuit around here, get to know it quite well. Well, as I rather expected, it is very muddy. My bicycle is sliding all over the place. And it's quite hard holding a camera, but you get the idea, hopefully. Squelch. I like this woodland because it's it varies actually as you go through it. There's lots of birch trees and then you get fir trees, but on a bicycle you're quite a bit quieter, particularly if you're freewheeling. And I've seen all sorts of animals in here. Obviously you get the wild deer from the deer park, but you get lovely birds of prey. So I've seen quite a few hawks and such like, and owls. Had an owl once flying over me at night, so it's very nice. I've now got a very powerful light on the front of my bike, so it's like one of these 3000 lumen lights, and I can, if I'm out in the summer and it's getting dark, I can still carry on a little bit and enjoy the cycling. They've been putting a few fire breaks in the woodlands, and this is one of the new ones they've put in, and it's basically opened up quite good vistas. Probably very difficult to see it from here, but ahead now is St Nicholas's Church in Sevenoaks, so you just see it peeping up. The town is probably just about half a mile, 3/4 of a mile away. It's not far from where I am now. It's all quite compact. Well, this is one of my favourite little stretches. It's in the summer, you have all the leaves on these beech trees and you have to sort of duck and make sure you don't get caught by them. But in the winter, it's obviously a lot more open. It's just this very nice little avenue where you can go down the centre here. It's far enough away from the main Knole house not to get visitors coming along, so it's always lovely and peaceful and rather attractive. It's not too bad for mud today. There's a few quite big ones here coming up. Ooh, I'm stopping. Just about managed to keep going. But yeah, I love it. It sort of stretches your eyes and you're seeing nature, you get nice little vistas. Occasionally I get a deer shoot out in front of me, or run alongside. I've also had a hare run alongside me for quite a distance, and it's quite fun. It's like they're teasing you. But it is one of the little joys of having an all-terrain bicycle where you can sort of go off route a bit. You don't have to stick to roads. It's one of the reasons I got a basic mountain bike rather than a road bike. Whereas I like being out in the countryside, as you probably gather, with all the bodging I do. Well, I've climbed to quite a height in the parkland, and it's obviously a rather misty day, but I'm on top of a green sand ridge, top of River Hill, and you can see across there, across the valley, the next town will be Tunbridge. There'll be Hildenborough, a little village on your way over, but you get quite wide views when the weather's clearer. Well, I've just been through a bit of woodland and I was just totally sinking in like 8 inches of mud. So I'm going to divert and go down these gallops. You can imagine galloping down here on a horse. It's a bit rough. Actually, I'm following the tracks of a horse now. In the summer, you get sort of whole rows and banks of foxgloves along here. So it's lovely natural things. At the moment, it's this rather lovely colour of the bracken. I mean, it's all rather wet. You get a drier day, which we haven't really had this year. It looks very nice and golden. I've not seen any deer today, which is unusual. I think I might be able to see some in the very far distance. So I'll keep on down these gallops and have a look. There we are, some up the bank there. They blend in with the bracken rather well. And actually, as I look around the other side now, there are quite a few. Hopefully you can just about see them. Oh, one nearby. That's where we need a zoom lens on this really. Hello. And off it goes. Lovely. And there's one more coming up. Or two. They do blend in well. They really do. They're just looking at me inquisitively. And there are quite a few down here. I won't get too close to these because I don't want to disturb them too much. Oops, it's a bit bumpy though once I'm off the path. Here are a nice little cluster. They're looking rather happy. Oh, you lost one of your antlers on the stag there. Oh, they're all along here actually. You can hear a noise in the background. They're parakeets, which have sort of recently come into the UK. I say recently, probably a few years now, but they were not a native bird in the UK. But we see them quite high up in trees. They're nice green, they look a bit like parrots. Oh, deer up there catching the horizon rather nicely. Lots of stags. Looks like a meeting of stags, in fact. So I'll call it a day there because I'm pretty well back now at the ice house. But I hope you enjoy getting a little look at Knole Park and the kind of cycling I can do around here in this part of Kent. It's very nice, Kent in the UK. So bye bye then, see you in the next film. Oh, and we have a lovely horse coming along here. Goodness me, it's a nice canter. It's quite impressive. Wow, it's going quite fast. Bye bye then.